We go over the Atlantic Ocean southern hemisphere last slide, so we're going to move on to the current of the Pacific Ocean. So, Pacific Ocean, Northern Hemisphere, the North Equatorial Current turns northward and flows along the Philippines Island, Taiwan, and Japan from the warm Kuroshino or Kuroshivo Current. Later, a cold current called Oyashino or Oyashiwo, which flows along the eastern coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula, merges with the Kuroshino Current. Kuroshino Current is a cold current which merges with the Oyashino before it confluence with Kuroshino. From southeast coast of Japan, the Kuroshino Current comes under the influence of westerlies and flow right across the ocean as North Pacific Current. After reaching the west coast of North America, it bifurcates into two branches. The northern branch flows anti-clockwise along the coast of Alaska as warm Alaska Current, and the southern branch moves southward along the coast of California as the cold California Current. California Current eventually joins with the North Equatorial Current and completes the circuit. Pacific Ocean, Southern Hemisphere. In the southern Pacific Ocean, the South Equatorial Current flows towards the west and turns southward as the East Australian Current. From Tasmania, it flows as the cold South Pacific Current from west to east and crosses the Pacific Ocean along with the west wind drift. On reaching the southwestern coast of South America, it turns northward and flows as cold Peru Current or Humboldt Current. The cold waters of the Peru Current are partially responsible for making the coast of the northern Chile and western Peru with very scanty rainfall. Peru Current eventually joins the South Equatorial Current and completes their circuit. Currents of the Indian Ocean. The pattern of circulation of ocean currents in the Indian Ocean differs from the general pattern of circulation in the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. This is because the Indian Ocean is blocked by the continental masses in the north. The general pattern of circulation in the southern hemisphere of the Indian Ocean is anti-clockwise as that of the other oceans. In the northern hemisphere, there is a clear reversal of currents in the winter and summer seasons, which are completely under the influence of the seasonal changes of monsoon winds. Indian Ocean, Northern Hemisphere. During winter, Sri Lanka divides the currents of the Arabian Sea from those of the Bay of Bengal. The northeast monsoon drift flows eastward just south of Sri Lanka with a counter current flow between it and the South Equatorial Current. During the winter season, in the northern section, the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea are under the influence of northeast monsoon winds. These northeast monsoon winds drive the waters of the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea westward to circulate in an anti-clockwise direction. Indian Ocean, Northern Hemisphere. During summer. In summer, the northern part comes under the influence of the southwest monsoon. It results in an easterly movement of water in the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea in a clockwise direction. This current is also as the southwest monsoon drift. In the Indian Ocean, the summer currents are more regular than those of the winter. Indian Ocean, Southern Hemisphere. In the southern In the southern part, the South Equatorial Current, which flows from east to west, is strengthened by its corresponding current of the Pacific Ocean. It then turns southward along the coast of Mozambique in Africa. A part of this current moving in between the African mainland and the Mozambique is called as the Warm Mozambique Current. After the confluence of these two parts, the current is called as a Glasshart current. Eghurst current merges with the west wind drift when it crosses the Indian Ocean. A branch of this merges current flows along the west coast of Australia as called West Australian Current. It later joins with the South Equatorial Current to complete the circuit. So, as mentioned above, the quick way to remember ocean currents is to remember the gyres. Currents in the western part of every continent is cold. So, currents coming from the polar regions are generally cold. Currents near to equator are generally warm. Northern Hemisphere currents. So in both the North Atlantic and the North Pacific, the southwesterly atmospheric circulation gives rise to northeastward flowing currents, respectively the Gulf Stream North Atlantic Current and the Curacao. The Gulf Stream originates off Florida and flows northeastward along the western coastlines of the United States and Newfoundland before crossing the North Atlantic as the North Atlantic Current at about 40 degrees north and 30 degrees west. It splits into two, with the northern branch flowing toward northern Europe and the Norwegian Sea, and the southern branch recirculating off the Canary Islands and West Africa. The Gulf Stream is about 100 kilometers wide and 800 to 1,200 meters deep. Off Florida, it transports about 30 CV and SV, and off Newfoundland about 150 SV. The Gulf Stream is wind-driven and at the surface reaches a velocity of 2.5 meters per second. The water temperature is about 21 degrees Celsius of Florida, decreasing by evaporative cooling to 8 degrees Celsius of Scotland. The North Atlantic Current represents a continuation of the Gulf Stream that is also maintained by the ocean thermohaline circulation. It is partly responsible for the mild winter climate of northwest Europe and for keeping the west coast of Norway free of sea ice in winter. In the Labrador Sea, Arctic Ocean flows southward for much of the year, carrying sea ice and Greenland icebergs from Baffin Bay with it. Water temperatures are -1 degree Celsius in winter and about 5 degrees in summer. The Labrador Current has a significant cooling effect on the Atlantic provinces of Canada and coastal New England. It encounters the Gulf Stream at the Grand Banks at southeast of Newfoundland, and it gives rise to frequent advection fogs as warm air flows over the cold water. The cooling of the surface air leads to it becoming saturated, giving rise to condensation as fog droplets. Fog is most common between November and March, but the Great Banks average over 200 days per year. There is also a cold East Greenland Current flowing southward from Frame Strait along the east coast of Greenland, which carries Arctic sea ice far south. The current turns outer surrounding Cape Farewell at the southern tip of Greenland and flows northward along the west coast of Greenland. In the subtropical North Atlantic, there is a massive clockwise oceanic gyre. This is formed by the Gulf Stream and the North Atlantic Current on the west and north, respectively, by the Canary Current on the east, and by the westward flowing North Atlantic Equatorial Current on the south that is driven by the easterly trade winds. These four currents comprise a gyre that encloses the Sargasso Sea, which spans 70 to 40 degrees west, 25 to 35 degrees north. In the North Pacific, the Kuroshino begins off the east coast of Taiwan that flows northeastward past Japan, where it merges into the easterly drift of the North Pacific Current. It is analogous to the Gulf Stream North Atlantic Current and the cold southward flowing California Current is analog to the Canary Current in the eastern North Atlantic of northeastern Asia. The cold subarctic waters of the Oyashi Current from southward are analogs to the Labrador Current. In the northern Indian Ocean, the currents reverse with the season in response to the northeast winter monsoon and the southwest summer monsoon of Somalia. In summer, there is a very strong current from the southwest driven by a low-level atmospheric jet stream over East Africa. The Sargasso Sea is a region of the North Atlantic Ocean bounded by four currents. It together form a circulating ocean stream called a gyre. Is the only such oceanic region on Earth to with it the term sea has been extended, all others being bound entirely or mostly by land. A distinctive body of water often found with its characteristic brown Sargassian seaweed and often calm blue water. It is very different from the rest of an Atlantic Ocean. The sea is bounded on the west by the Gulf Stream, on the north by the North Atlantic Ocean, on the east by the Canary Current, and by the south by the North Atlantic Equatorial Current. A clockwise circulation system of ocean currents termed the North Atlantic Gyre. The Gulf Stream. So the Gulf Stream, the earliest report on the existence of a transatlantic current was made by Martin Frobisher, who recorded the presence of driftwood from fir trees during his expedition to Greenland and Baffin Island in 1576. Early scientific work on the Gulf Stream was carried by Benjamin Franklin, who on 3 Atlantic crossing between 1775 and 1786 observed air and water temperatures and published a map of the Gulf Stream North Atlantic Current between 1808 and 1852. So hundreds of bottle tracks were recorded northward and southward. Shifts of warm water of Newfoundland were noted seasonality that on multi-decadal time scales, though later matching southward shifts with intervals of more extensive sea ice of Iceland, according to Stoller and Bryson. So that's the map of Benjamin Franklin, and you can read more about the story about the Gulf Stream.